can just agree, bring back the Senate, start the trial now. Mitch McConnell said, no, I will not allow the trial to start until Donald Trump is no longer president. Today, he voted that because Donald Trump is no longer president, well, there can't be a trial. So 45 Republican senators today said that there shouldn't even be a trial for this. Forget it. Yeah, they stormed the Capitol and tried to kill the vice president and the Speaker of the House and probably lots of us. And they stormed the Senate chamber and went through all of our desks and had guns and tasers and bats and ransacked the place and thought that would be the way that they'd take control of the government while threatening to kill all of us. But you know what? It was nearly 3 weeks ago. 45 Republican senators voted that today. And that is technically meaningless. It has no implication directly in terms of what's going to happen at the Senate impeachment trial of former President Donald Trump. The trial will go ahead. There have been 4 Senate impeachment trials of U.S. presidents in U.S. history. 2 of them are for Donald Trump. Today, all U.S. senators took their oaths to essentially serve their role as what amounts to jurors in next month's trial. The oath was administered by Vermont Senator Patrick Leahy. He's the president pro tem of the Senate. He's the senior senator in the Senate majority. He's 80 years old. He's the longest-serving Democrat in the Senate. In his role as president pro tem, he will be the one who presides procedurally over President Trump's trial. I should note that we did have a bit of a scare this evening when we received word that Senator Leahy had been taken to the hospital at the recommendation of the Capitol physician after he reported not feeling well at his office. We're now told that Senator Leahy is already out of the hospital and at home. He's had a thorough examination, got some test results back. His spokesman says the senator looks forward to getting back to work potentially as soon as tomorrow. So, again, it's a scare in terms of Senator Leahy tonight, but we send the senator best wishes for a speedy recovery. We hope it was nothing serious. But as far as that trial that Senator Leahy will preside over next month, Republicans don't think there should be a trial. They believe that the president should not have been tried while he was still in office, and now that he's not in office, he can't be tried. And so if you mount a violent attack on the U.S. government, including your supporters seemingly being bent on trying to kill the vice president and members of House and the Senate, depending on the timing, it might be okay. They really are cool with this being what their party does right now. It is almost impossible to believe, but that is where they are. And that really is where they are. Tonight, CNN reporting that one of the new Republican members of the House, a Congresswoman named Marjorie Taylor Greene, as recently as 2019, was publicly advocating for the execution of prominent Democrats in this country, including Nancy Pelosi, who she suggested should get a bullet in the head. No sign whatsoever that will have any impact on Ms. Greene's standing in the Republican Party or in Congress, because that's not weird for the Republican Party anymore. And, you know, often when a party gets voted out of power, like the Republicans just were, they no longer hold the White House or the House or the Senate. Often when that happens in normal politics, you'll see all this reporting, all these headlines about, oh, the party in disarray. This is a very particular and peculiar form of disarray. I mean, this is what appears to still be a political party, but they're not dealing with, like, how do we regroup and address our internal differences and come back to the American people with a newly credible case that we should be governing. No, they're dealing with what we would usually think of as a fringe, violent, extremist, criminal movement. But it is right at the heart of what they are offering the country, and they are really taking great pains to make sure that the leader who drove them fastest and hardest in that direction can run as their standard bearer again in 2024, because they like the way he did it this time. That's more than a party in disarray. That's something where it's very hard to have a stable democracy based on a two-party system if that's one of the two parties, if that's their contention right now. What do we do about our members who are bringing guns onto the floor and saying that the Speaker of the House should have a bullet in her head? And what do we do about our outgoing president who just mounted an armed attack on the Capitol? Should we just make sure that his followers are charged and make sure that he comes back and runs for president again in 2024? I mean, this is not politics, per se. This is a question about the viability of democracy, if that's one of the two parties in this country. Meanwhile, there is another major party in this country. And on the other side, we've now got Democrats in control of the House and the Senate and the White House. And what they're contending with right now is that they have all this policy they'd like to get done. Right? They have a very different sort of challenge on their hands. And we're now seeing, within the past 48 hours, their idea for how they're going to try to get stuff done for the country. I mean, the contrast between what the two parties are dealing with internally, it's not like night and day. It's like Earth and Mars. But the Democrats have their own challenges, and their challenges are how to pass their legislative agenda. Last night in our interview with Senate Democratic leader Chuck Schumer, he made news when he said Democrats may have a way to pass the COVID relief bill and also President Biden's infrastructure bill just with 50 votes. So even if the Republicans decide they want to filibuster everything, those two biggest pieces of legislation that they want to do, they may have figured out a way to do them just with Democratic votes. The number 2 Democrat in the Senate, Dick Durbin, also saying today that they may have even found a way to pass a new minimum wage, a $15 minimum wage. Again, just with 50 Democratic votes, plus the vice president, even if all Republicans vote against it and Republicans filibuster it and do everything else they can to stop it. If they could pass the COVID relief bill and an infrastructure bill and a $15 minimum wage, with Republicans not being able to stop it with the filibuster, that would be quite a series of legislative accomplishments for an entire term, let alone for the first, month of the term? Republicans are having their own Shakespearean, nay, biblical drama right now, really playing with existential stuff in terms of this country and who they are and what they're offering. And their confidence level and comfort level with violence against democracy being what they're offering this country as their option. Right? And while the Republicans are doing that, Democrats are coming up with all the ways they can to try to move all of the substantive policy things they want to do without the Republicans. That's what's happening in Congress. And President Biden is moving forward with a ton of executive actions because he can do that without engaging Congress at all, eliminating the zero-tolerance policy today that led to kids being separated from their parents at the southern border. We're still waiting to hear what the administration's plan is going to be to reunite all those remaining kids with their families. They said they would set up a task force to get it done. We're waiting to hear the details of that. But the policy today eliminated at the stroke of a pen by President Biden. President Biden today also issuing multiple executive orders on racial equity, building racial equity into everything the federal government does. He made announcements today about vaccines, including that his administration believes it's found a way to get 300 million Americans vaccinated by the end of the summer. We are going to be talking about that more in detail later on in this show, but that's a very big deal if they can pull it off. Big picture, though, we are at this place right now where we are supposedly a two major party democracy. That's been the source of stability and continuity in our democracy for centuries now. And we are now quite suddenly and clearly at this place where the two parties have totally different tasks at hand. And on the Republican side, it is some scary and kind of unnerving stuff about whether or not they are a party that endorses violence and whether they are a party that still believes that democracy and elections are the way that we decide things as a country. On the Democratic side, they're just trying to govern, and they're trying to figure out how to get something done without having to deal with that dumpster fire on the other side, because how can that be your governing partner? However much we tend to treat politics as a horse race and a numbers game in terms of how many seats on each side and how much elections have consequences based on, how many people are on each committee, right? Once the consequences are that you are in control of both houses of Congress and the White House, the thing that's most key to your political success is to show whether you can do good things for the country with your power, whether you can get stuff done. The Republican Party is having a very different crisis right now. The Democratic Party is trying to figure out how to deliver. And that makes the task of the Democratic Party totally different than what's happening on the other side. It makes it sort of earnest and civic right now, but also incredibly important as to whether or not we're going to have a Republican in the future. Because on the Republican Party, that's not the way they are approaching the nation's problems right now. The Democrats have to prove they can do this, or they're going to have to contend with the dumpster fire over there again in terms of what the people of the United States have to choose from between the two options available to them. Just an incredible situation that we are in. But as I said, the man who Joe Biden has just chosen to run the Democratic Party